be on the day of ordination, so that was scheduled. So we're moving it 1 week, so it'll be September the 16th, 2017. So on your calendars, the schedules that you got, cross out the date that's there and put the 16th, so that there's no confusion.
And that's at 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock.
10 a.m., yes, sir.
So what's the date?
September 16th.
You didn't hear everybody. I think everybody needs to say that.
So take one of that on bright paper, so that's another reminder.
Yes.
I
apologize for asking this question. I know we're not allowed to talk about it until February, but I just, did I remember correctly that you had said we should make arrangements for a photographer and videographer? Or is that provided?
That is something to be discussed by the group together.
Okay.
There will be an official diocesan photographer there. So,
The only reason I thought of that is because September is so busy for weddings and whatnot. We might want to book that, even though we won't plan it. It might be helpful if we think about that one thing ahead of time.
right. And I don't know who the official diocesan photographer will be. It could be John, or it could be Daniel. And Daniel's been doing the last ordinations as far as live streaming. So videography and stuff is something that he could possibly do as well. It'll save you some money. Just to say. So, pastoral field experiences. I'm getting some paperwork in. Brian, I didn't email you back, but I got everything you sent me so far. By our Saturday seminar in October, this is what you need to catch up on if you have not gotten me this so far, unless there are other circumstances that you need to let me know about. But I should have at that point all ministry selections, so those of you who have new pastors, you should be giving me your ministry selection. Or if you set up a ministry selection with your old pastor and now you have a new one that you were waiting to find out if it be approved, please make sure that that approval is going on. Then that means you need to give me your ministry covenants. Tells me what you're going to be doing. And in actuality, your first reflection paper is due. So I got my first one.
I was first. I was last.
Wow. Yeah, you first.
Oh, man.
So, we're beginning to, by the time I get this in October, it's October.
The second one's due December 6th, so it'll be a short time in between.
Yeah, we may discuss that,
I saw
but
that today.
it's just, these things need to be in place, especially if you're doing RCIA, because classes are starting up. If you're doing religious ed, classes are starting up. So whatever those ministries are, we kind of have to get an idea. I'm not just looking at you, I got several of them out there. I had lunch this week with Miss Lydia. Sad news is that her husband passed away.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's not 52 years, 53 years, something like that.
53 years of married life, yeah. She said it is an interesting change because her children just want to come in and just take care of her very well, and she keeps going. He's been sick for quite a while, so she's used to doing a lot already to take care of herself. So she just has to keep reminding them of that. So keep her in your prayer. Basically, she's progressing forward and doing okay. She is definitely looking forward to being with all of you. She had such fun last year, and she guarantees me that when she walks out in 8 weeks, you guys will be reading Spanish. No laughing.
The word Spanish?
So you'll be doing a lot of that during class time, and she has She will have mass parts, gospels in Spanish. She's got the baptismal book that's bilingual. She's got pastoral care book that's bilingual. She's got the funeral book that's bilingual. She'll have the marriage book that's bilingual. So you're going to get a smattering of all of this, and she'll work on some of the more difficult words. But before class, go over that alphabet so that you have a beginning. And I don't know if she's going to do a refresher, but just in case, at least come in and say buenas tardes or buenas noches to her, okay?
Jane,
Yeah.
do we bring that book to the first class, or is that something else?
I would bring it, I don't know when she's gonna start really introducing it, but I would bring it. And again, I don't even know when she's gonna start introducing the baptism part, because many of you have the bilingual book already. So, those things, if you have them, bring them with you. And then, on another note, if any of you couples would like to come and help usher for the 50th wedding anniversary celebration, it's on Sunday, October 2nd at 2 o'clock at the cathedral. One of my usher groups had to back out on me, so I don't have a lot of time to fill in. So I'm giving you all first shot, maybe just sitting here going, please, 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 one of you, just come and help. It's just great.
What time?
It's 2 o'clock, Sunday, October 2nd.
Week from this coming Sunday.
Oh, yes, thank you, Jim. It's a week from this coming Sunday. It's a coming. It's over. Can you and Teresa? Okay, perfect. That will be very, very helpful. But it is a great time to come and see these couples who've been celebrating for so long. And we have one couple that's coming that have been married actually 63 years this year. They missed coming to celebrate their 50th. So they wanted to, before anything else happened, they wanted to be able to get there to Mass with the bishop. So I just think it's cool to watch them. Okay? Any other questions about things going on? Okay, DJ, they're yours. Okay, DJ, I need to interrupt you. Just, I just got asked a question, and so just in case, we need to keep Deacon Ed Feltus in your prayers. As of this July, he came into the house looking very gray and not being able to formulate all of his words. Seemed to get a little better, then some other things happened. By the time they were getting to the doctor and were getting an MRI scheduled, his mother died. He went and he assisted at the funeral and her graveside. The MRI was the next day, so he came back, and then they wouldn't let them leave. So the doctor came in and says, I'm not sure how you're still alive. You've had a stroke. But that's not the part we're concerned about. They're concerned about his heart. And he's going to have a complete aorta replacement and something else happening on October 10th. So kind of scary. He's pulled out of everything right now because he's a walking time bomb is what they called him. And just kind of taking one day at a time and letting God be God and all of the nerve-wracking things that go along with that. So please keep him and Jess in your prayers.
Mike, I want to move into the reading from this book. I'd like to use the board again.
DJ, I'm really tired tonight, so you've got to be on. Really.
I make no guarantee.
Wow, that was good.
That's one of our favorite lines in my house, is I make no guarantees. There's a movie called That Thing You Do. It was a great movie, Tom Hanks movie, and he said that it's very important that you don't stink tonight. One of the response he gets is, I make no guarantees. It's about a band, it's about a music video. I recommend it highly. There's two versions of it. There's a squeaky clean, we love it, PG version, and there's another one that left the crap. Anyway, we're in Catholic sexual ethics. Any leftover questions? Okay, because I hope, whether people are awake or not, I hope that the chart, the thing that we kind of worked over a little bit last week, I hope it sort of made sense when you were reading some of this stuff from Dr. May, because he tries to paint the picture of what's wrong with some of these things, and they fall on that, or put another way, he explains what some of the people who oppose church teaching, he explains it in ways that should make sense on that chart. Okay, because if we have, and you know, I'm going to put this out because I never realized this before, but when we were talking at the break, Tim helped me understand that the chart is really confusing in one aspect. Okay, we're talking about the act, and from the document, Veritatis Splendor, we talked about intrinsically evil, always wrong, everywhere, the action itself is wrong. Okay. And then I put other things up here about that act. The end of the act. What's its purpose? The intentions, the circumstances. Remember all that stuff we put up there? Okay. What was really helpful for me to clarify for Tim was that that whole chart is about one action. Okay? This is not a cascade of different actions. It's all the different pieces that go into one evaluation of the act. Okay? Is that right? And that exactly. Okay, that was really helpful because as the chart kind of unfolds, or as like I said, we were going up and down, meaning we start with the act itself, or maybe we start down here with the intention of the person or the circumstances involved in that, blah, blah, blah. Excuse me. All of it had to do with evaluating one thing. Okay? Not multiple actions. Okay? Make sense? Because, like I said, I hope when some of the things that you read in Dr. May's book, you know, some of those things came back in your head about other people would say this is okay because you end up okay, or the circumstances. There are other reasons why some things were given as justification for this or that moral act. The chart helps make sure, chart whatever you want to call it, helps define all those different pieces. Okay?
Is there a definition or a title for that procedure that we go through?
The chart.
DJ's
chart.
That's helpful.
I actually do have a question.
Yes.
Before I nod off, do the numbers...
I hope snacks, dude. That's all I This is gonna be a wasted night. I think we'll bad.
Is the intention for the numbers to match up? So 1 and 1 and 1 all kind of speak to the same idea, and 2 and 2 speak to the same idea?
sorry, I didn't follow you.
So the numbering for it, in the top half it's numbered, is the intention that the numbers all mean the same thing in their respective categories, so all the ones kind of stand together and all the twos stand together, but they just have a different idea of how they're applied.
Which ones are you talking about?
So all it's all, it's like the
okay.
one, all the ones mean the same general thing with different ideas attached to them because of the category there. Or is it a list that's independent of the other one? I was just wondering if there was a relation between those. Or...
No, no.
Okay.
No, I do understand this question. Now, the chart that he's talking about, there's numbers. Number 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. Those numbers are not meant, this one doesn't go with these. They're just independent lists. Okay, that was the question. Sorry that was confusing.
It probably is. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, so this is, like I said, this is literally my photocopy of my notes 100 years ago. Any questions on either one of those? The one that I put on the board, or the one that we were just looking at with Jason, the one that has different moral methodologies? Any questions on either of those? Okay? Then, to the reading tonight. What'd you find out? I shortened it. As I said, there's really some simple, I think, simple stuff in the first section. On page about 25 to 50, I think. And then the next section is 221 and on.
I guess one of the things that really caught me, and that's something I hadn't thought about, was the contraceptive with disease control, basically. You know, for those who had AIDS.
Okay.
I was just, had never thought about that.
AIDS became a big issue because it was fatal, usually a fatal disease. But even back when birth control was still, it used to be illegal. Did you know that? It was illegal in this country? Anyone? Okay. Talk about laws that were on the books. It used to be illegal. If you want to take into that tangent about society and how we're wandering all over the place, society is what. It used to be illegal, but you could get them, you can get condoms if you had a doctor's order. This is way before AIDS. For the other, if you will, the older, the sexually transmitted diseases that have been around for a while. They were available for medicinal purposes. Okay? You look this stuff up. This is now the good thing. The good thing and bad thing. You have instant access to our recent history. You used to find condom dispensers. They're still in the men's room. I don't know if I want to shock anybody. That's still the case, but we know that. But the old ones were labeled, you know, for medical, you know, disease control, not birth control. So it became a big issue if it's moral or not, because the AIDS epidemic, the book he wrote that in the document from Vatican a little bit from the 80s, I think 88, you can go check the date. It pushed the issue back up to the surface. Why? Because
Sexual revolution.
specifically about AIDS.
Wasn't he talking about down in one of the Ethiopia or one of those countries down there where it was prevalent, where they really first talked about where they were trying to control it?
And when you got AIDS, what happened next? Usually, sometimes soon, sometimes yeah, you die. Okay, there's lots of. I'm pointing you only because I know them from moral books, not from medicine. There's plenty of sexually transmitted diseases. That one ended up being pretty clear at the time that this is fatal. So at what point, so then we had to have some guidance at what point is this an acceptable moral use or immoral use? Okay, that's a good example. We jump ahead because I want to walk back through some of the further, but that's a good example of Dr. May using what, it's not DJ's, magic tree chart, but
Some of the information is kind of old. We found out now that a lot of that you still get even though you try to protect.
right. And he ended up making the case in that, and according to the Vatican Act, he ended up making the case that all of those circumstances and other things that are further down our tree, we put it in simple language. I mean, we get to everything that's further down on the little tree chart. He says, I get it, and that's true, and it's this and that, but it doesn't change the fact that what you're in fact doing when you do this kind of an act is insert something into the equation that's wrong. So that's where, again, the little thing, hopefully, you gotta work it a little bit, but he ends up, Dr. May ends up very clearly saying, yes, it's this and it's that, it's a tough question, and we don't want to work with people and be safe and not have died, but here's the action. As we both said again, that's the short one-sentence version of what he's talking about in that section. Good. What else? Yes.
On page 234, he makes a statement that says the apparent disregard of the Church's teaching on contraception by many Catholics show that the connection between this teaching and the faith needs to be better understood. And it caught me because I don't know, I disagree with the process where it needs to be understood, it needs to be taught. Because I know when me and my wife got married, that was not part of our marriage prep, talking about contraceptives. So it sort of raised a flag to say, I understand it now, but 20 years ago, I didn't understand it. So it led me to ask my daughter. I said, hey, when you went through all your teaching, did you ever talk about this? She goes, Dad, I don't want to talk to you about this. So I had her mom ask her.
And did we get anywhere with the question or not?
She goes, well, they did, but it was, this co-exorcism, it was never talked about. Even for the young people today. So I just think that understood is a bad word just in that one section.
So what you're saying, he's assuming that we've tried to explain it and it just hasn't been understood. If we haven't explained it at all.
Well, I think too, some of the things that I saw too is that the Catholicism that all of us, and he and many others, is so demographic and area-based. I grew up in Chicago, and I went to public schools, and there was nobody in the world that spent a moment, even in my village education, touching this subject whatsoever. The only time I heard about it was in 5th grade. We took a trip to this place called the Robert Crown Center, which is just a frightening way to learn about the reproductive life of a man and a woman. And
Okay.
I mean, you literally sat in an auditorium and watched the video, and you had these college-aged grad students who were, and so growing up in Chicago, it was very, very much frowned upon to think of that type of world. When I moved here, it was already just so deep into the fiber of people's mentality that our job as parents were easier, and then going to Catholic schools, a lot of the work is done at the school itself. And so I do think that the place that a person grows up in does have a lot also to do with the fact there's that tie to this.
Sure, sure. where we're growing up and who, and the family, you know, all that is part of it.
Do you think that it's gonna sound really off the wall, but they're kind of used to it after so many years. The sexuality part of this is kind of the secondary compared to the main part, and that's where we've got that gap. What, the sexual act,
Mhm.
what all can be damaged,
Okay.
the relationships and how that relationship is. There's so many different layers there that I'm just wondering if that's not where we're got that void.
Sure. I mean, part of what, that's a good way of me posing a question that I had for you as a class, is that in this first section, we'll go through it fairly quickly. In the second section, which is basically all the issues, right? Adultery, you know, contraception, the list. My question for you, maybe this is what I would answer you, is adultery, contraception, natural family planning, sterilization, other violations, artificial insemination, condom, the last one is condoms, using condoms for AIDS. It's part of my question, we go through this, and you know, I'm asking you to steer the conversation a little bit, because we all know, I'm assuming at this point, you know, if I put a list like that in front of you, you would know what the church teaches. Is that fair? I'm not, and in one sense, this is my point. In one sense, I'm going to teach you tonight anything particularly new about the church's stance on adultery. No. No. Okay. But I think what you're asking about, or I don't know if this is the same thing, is that, okay, that's that. How do we talk about that? You know, Dr. May gives a very good and clear understanding about why it's wrong, or at least from one perspective. This is how we think about it, this is how it works, this is what it is, this is what it isn't, you can justify it this way, but you really can't. So, I mean, he goes through all those things. So, I mean, again, no, we're not going to teach anybody new to say, well, you're going to walk out of here. I didn't know it was wrong. But what do we need to fill in the gaps? Okay? Because like I said to you many times, I mean, you guys are going to walk out and be dealing with it. You know, and I don't know if it's your daughter or other people. I mean, start at home, even though those are difficult. You know, start with the people that are closest to you.
Because it almost feels like that, you know, we're saying adultery is wrong. Well, what makes it wrong? Because I said so. You know,
exactly.
That's you know, there's something there that's.
That was probably beauty of St. John Paul II, was he made issues a yes and not a no. You know, he started with a yes.
Yeah.
He didn't say it's wrong, he said you're of value. And from there, it's a much better launching point than, no, it's wrong.
But what he's talking about classes and that, a lot of times that's almost the approach.
That's absolutely.
Because it's the shortest lawn. It's the shortest distance. If you needed your kids to do something, did you sit down and say, it's really important that you understand why I need you to do this? Maybe you did. Maybe you did. I did. Okay, you take the shortest line.
I take the
Okay,
Wi-Fi
so
box.
do this now, or so there's this temptation. Go ahead, Ed.
I thought it was in the very beginning, kind of where he builds on that the church has always taught that the union of man and woman in marriage is a good and holy thing, and how the church has been consistently through, and how I think we don't learn that marriage is good and holy, and the church has always upheld that, and always upheld that a man and union, that the union between a man and woman is healthy and it is actually encouraged. And so we don't hear that, and we're almost like in society today, that marriage is disposable. It's just that's a thing to do if you want to. You know, and we've lost that holiness, the sacramental element of marriage and the sacredness of it. And so therefore, then that's probably, I was kind of bounced right off what Phil was saying then, and then, we don't, it's not a sacred thing, well, then I can do whatever I want.
And there's no difference between getting married and living together. What's the difference? There's nothing.
Right.
But every Sunday, we pray for an increase in vocations to the church, to the priesthood, but we don't pray for an increase in vocation to marriage.
Well,
What else?
the prayer we pray at St. Joseph's, it does include pray for the marriage as well. But yeah, I guess in general, we know about it too.
Well, I don't want to open a can of worms here, but I was reading the,
Yeah, I think they're.
Adultery part. Not talking.
On the table.
Reading the adultery part and how he was saying, you know, that we always have thought that it's an intrinsic evil and that we can't use culture or circumstances to justify adultery. And what are we going through right now in our church with the different interpretations of the popes? I can't say it, AL. And I was thinking as I was reading this, maybe Cardinal Casper should pick this book up and read it. That's kind of what I wrote in the margin here, but of course, that wouldn't happen. But it's just distressing to me that even though, you know, he cites, you know, Paul and the other, you know, about all this great writings and the folks speaking about this issue, and it's distressing that it's never put to sleep, and now we're going through it again, where some people are saying that, you know, there is a greater good for if a married, divorced Catholic gets married, and, you know, there is a greater good there because they can have sex, because if they don't, the children could be harmed, and that's one of the arguments they're using right now. It's just distressing to me that, you know, we never put these issues to sleep. Here we are, we're going through it.
I agree. I would guess that Cardinal Casper is very much aware of Dr. May's approach and a different approach. And maybe that's just another way to say it. I mean, I'll say the positive and the negative. There's another way to say that why don't we put this, see, that's what I mean. I don't know if this morality class is going, why don't we just move on from this? It's not going to go away. We're not going to get to a point, and I don't know, it's where I switch back and forth from us as a church, us as a little group right here, and then me individually. I don't think we're ever going to get, you know, back to we're never going to get to a point where everybody thinks that every follows all the rules. It's always, yeah. In one sense, that's why I think, you know, when Pope Francis says he didn't want to talk about, you know, birth control and contraception anymore. It was, oh, cool, so we're good, right? No, I don't think that's what was said. But can we talk about something else? Our faith is more than that. Right? So, but it's not going to go away. You know, and nor is it going to change. So I'm going to turn it back. I'm going to keep however we can do it. And if I can help, that's what I'm trying to do, rather than keep, you know, Jason away. I want to help because you're going to be the ones sifting through that. People don't know what Dr. Mason. People don't even know what Cardinal Casper says. They know that, and I'm sorry to use you as an example too, they know that they're not going to talk to their dad about that. They're not going to have these conversations. So how do we put it back on your table and say, you got to go do this? I do too. I've said that before. In a very real way, you're going to be looked at, maybe approached, and if not approached, you're going to have to find the right avenue to weasel your way in there. Truth.
Unfortunately, it's a subject that a lot of people shy away from because it's kind of embarrassing or hard to talk about, but it's a subject that needs to be very well understood and passed on. And why is that way?
Before this class is over, can we have one of DJ's papers
that has basically bullet points about these issues that we need to be talking about with marriage encounter people. Because the plain vanilla tapes that we have at St. Mary's, Al and Tim can attest to, are about 30 years old, and they are very light in touching on these subjects. And we would need bullet points for topics that need to be discussed during a marriage encounter, so that we would be able to address those issues in a civilized way that would be at least informative to the young people as they approach marriage. Can you do that, please?
I could. Here's my point. I'll make 3 points. First of all, there are really good resources that are newer than 30 years. I don't know how you get those, but there's such a thing. Secondly, I can give you my bullet points. Thirdly, you're not going to weasel out of it because they're still going to say, what about you? You.
I
You know what I mean?
anticipate doing that.
Okay.
But I'm looking for leadership from you, because I regard you as somebody that's an authority figure in this subject. Otherwise, you wouldn't be teaching this.
Yeah.
Why are you guys laughing? I don't understand. This is serious stuff.
Because that's why I said, I want to, before we're done, I want to help you be able to do that.
Thank you.
But I think what we walk away with is a pattern, like what we see from St. John Paul II, or the pattern on the board of the Acts.
Mm-hmm.
So we won't be able to know what the new issues, whether a man and a man want to get married, it's not HIV anymore, it's Zika, it's, some other, biologic drug that you could take or something like that. They will change. But we have in our mind a pattern of how to respond and how to make a moral decision.
St. John Paul II in the Splendor of Truth in paragraph 111, he sort of gets back to the basic thing, He ends up that paragraph with saying, he starts by talking about, behavioral sciences and what's the phenomenon going on in history and social, and how does this relate to morality. Then he says, indeed, the relevance of the behavioral sciences for moral theology must always be measured against the primordial question. What is good or evil? What must be done to have eternal life? So I think, like what Dwayne's saying, you got to start with, what's the basic thing before you get to these other questions. And for all of us, this is new evangelization, right? Do you have a relationship with Jesus to start with? Because then, if you do, you sort of maybe want to do what he's telling you to do. And then you can see, right, Scripture, right? It says, look, do not do adultery. If you even look at a woman with lust in your heart, you've already sort of created. So I guess that is a part that sort of can start with. Okay, well, Jesus told us that we're not supposed to do it. Then you can go from there, saying why you think it's bad or something. But I think most of the questions can start from there, as opposed to, otherwise, they sort of maybe seem like just rules.
Absolutely.
Bullet points.
Absolutely. And that's why, and the only thing I would say, though, in defense of that, is that I keep putting it back, it's like a stop sign. I'd love to sit and talk to you, excuse me, not stop sign, this speed limit sign. I'd love to sit and talk with you about why it's important to care about the kids in the neighborhood. That's really, I'm using it as a parallel right now. That's the conversation about, do you know that Jesus wants to be a part of your life? Okay? You understand why that sign is there, how important children are to be saved. That's the conversation we want to have. But somewhere over next door or right away or somewhere nearby is, you know what, actually, it doesn't matter if you care. You can't do that. So this balance between rules, and that's why we're loving and we're frustrated. We love and we're frustrated with.
But you can do that. You can break the law. We see that in our society. Take adultery.
Well, you can, but
then
there's consequences. That's what I mean. So I can do that.
Yeah, then you're not doing what Jesus wants you to do. Okay, yeah.
But there's consequences. But there's consequences to the action. Like I said, we can have that conversation. Aside from who Jesus is, which is, like I said,
true.
So there's profit.
But why would people necessarily care about the consequences? I mean, there's always
that? I mean, are you talking to Christians? Are you talking to someone who doesn't have that same belief system where they really care about this?
Well,
Like maybe
or
Pope
they-
Francis, let's just not talk about it anymore because that's not getting to the point. We have to get to the point first of people even caring about it. I'm just raising that question.
Well, the matter of the fact is, no matter if they're Christian or not, adultery, you can just use that for an example. The damage is the same to a non-Christian as it is to a Christian, whether they realize it or not. What was the teacher we had, Deacon Kurt's friend?
We follow hedonistic lifestyle.
Right, he said, you know, if it's, a lie is still a lie, whether everybody believes it or not. They can believe that, no, it doesn't hurt anything, but it does. If that wasn't the case, look, there wouldn't be as many divorce lawyers, because they just go take care of it. And it's the hurt that's there
But it wasn't my fault.
Well, it doesn't matter whose fault it is, it's still a damage.
It does to them.
Oh, I know, but it's still a damage.
And you're trying to talk to them.
Whether it's a Christian or not. And, geez, did the doctor hold your book?
That's how it came from the US Post Office.
I have more copies of what I just handed out.
Brandon
Hold
is
on.
down.
Who else wants one? I handed out one to the guys, but I had to have extra copies. There's 2 pages. Basically, I handed them out because the way they spit out of the computer or the printer, I wanted to get, everybody's got 2 pages. So another way to, okay, the short answer is, as far as I'm concerned, as far as the little,
We have 3 pages, right?
that's why the first one came. There should be 2. One is, first one says, the front and a blank back. And then the second one has the issues that starts with adultery, and then it's 2-sided. That's what you should have, 2 pieces of paper. Okay? That's my little outline from the readings from the book. All that this is said to us so far this evening is that we agree this is tough. We agree there's different ways to go about this, and we can be as best and smart bullet points as we can, no matter whoever is in front of us. You know, whoever is asking the question. There's somebody that care or don't care. Here's how we can make sense of them. Okay? The first page, the one that is blank on the back, those are basically the few major headings in the first section. Here's some of the things that I picked out. You go through the book. Dr. made the book with me. Made reference to some spots there. The first section, moral theology in the magisterium. I'm not going to go over that. He talks about some of the same things we pulled out last time in ecclesiology. I went back and didn't print out for everybody, but you know the notes that we used last time, the outline about levels of theology, levels of teaching, what level is the Pope's pronunciation, the fallibility, and all that stuff. Find that in the binder with the magisterium stuff. This is just a good little summary that he puts in this book to give us background. Okay. Page 28, where he's talking about magisterial teaching on the goodness and holiness of marriage. Familiaris consortio on the family. Do you have that one somewhere on your shelf? If you don't, get it. If you do, make reference to it. He quotes it extensively in this section. He also quotes canon law, which is on page 30. Sorry, where do I line 34. The quote that I put on the outline, from canon law, paragraph 1055, paragraph 1, which is the summary of this section. Matrimonial covenant by which a man and a woman establish between themselves a partnership of the whole life is by its nature ordered to the good of the spouses and the procreation and education of offspring.
What if you get somebody that tells you, well, we don't plan on having children? Then you just talk about the partnership between the man and the woman?
Okay, see, the short answer is if they intend not to have children, they can't get married in the church. Okay. So, but that's my point. Is this, I don't know if these are bullet points or not, but this is the point of the conversation. When they come to you, you can have a 5-minute or less, 3-minute conversation with them. Say, oh, well, that's an issue. So, no, you can't be married. But we want to be married in the church, and it's beautiful, it's sacrament, we love each other. We'll be married forever. You know, we get all that stuff. We'll be faithful. We'll be true. We'll get all that stuff. We're just not gonna have kids. So that's what I mean. They could be a short answer. Or, I don't know if this is where bullet points come in handy. Then you talk about the good of the spouses. Because as somebody was just explaining, these things are good for us as humans, not because necessarily I count myself as a disciple of Jesus Christ. Why, I mean, I don't know if this is, I'm not going to take a long tangent here, but this is where, what does it mean that you know each other? Talk about that. This is, and this is, if you will, I suppose, I don't speak for him, this is the Pope Francis approach. We know what the rule is. That's the easy part. I tell you right now what it is. Okay? The hard part is, tell me about how much you love each other. To spend an hour doing that. Somewhere in there is our code word for friendship, mutual friendship of the spouses, and a life-giving union. Okay? They wouldn't be here if they didn't find joy and life and friendship and want to spend the rest of their lives together. Somewhere and that's what I mean by our code word is, that's one of the goods of marriage. I would suggest to them somewhere, if I could, that's why I don't know the bullet point. So, I got news for you kids. Your marriage, as you just described it, already is a life-giving union. So I don't know what the hesitation is about. This is a long conversation. Do it for a fact. I don't know what the hesitation is about kids. I wouldn't do that in 30 seconds. I don't know what the hesitation is about kids because it seems to me you guys are very generous. You're very life-giving. Look at you guys. You're happy all the time. People like hanging out with you. Yeah. Like I said, in my code word, that's a life-giving union. Throw them off the deep end eventually and say, okay, what that means is you're going to generate life. Kid. I did. I mean, like you, I've done marriage prep. I went, 15 and on with a young lady who said, I just don't want a kid. I don't see myself having a kid. Have we explained it? I said, gee, when you stand there, I'm going to be standing there, I'm being a congregating, I'm going to be there, and you say, I do, you need to know what you're doing before God. Okay. The other part of this is we do the best we can. They were pregnant within a year. Okay.
I could probably, what is the dates of it, maybe in offhand. Did this document and the other ones that we discussed from John Paul II, did they perceive is kind of homilies and discourses that are now the collection that is theology of the body, and like Faith and Reason, or did they come after that as kind of a way to expound on certain ideas?
After.
After, okay.
What we call the theology of the body was really early work. And I suppose if he was never elected Pope, would have kind of been given and taught anyway. This is really simplistic, but he was elected Pope and he has this work and reflection, and somebody said, well, just read them. So that's why they're kind of tough to read, because they're little small pieces. But that was very early. And in fact, it was from the theology, the Wednesday catechesis were right at the beginning of this pontificate. So all of this stuff is after that. Okay, the next part on the outline, let's move a couple. The legal recognition to unions between homosexual persons. He gives 4 different things that are from the document. He's given a real short breakdown of the document. Right reason. We'll go through these. The reason why this is difficult is that our society has moved past it. Let me ask you a simple question. I don't know how far we'll get you, but this is a bullet point. Why did the state, and I'm talking specifically, leave aside, we talk about reason and thinking things through, leave aside faith in God for a second. Okay? Why did the state of Michigan bother to start handing out marriage licenses in the first place? Why did the state of Michigan care if you two people are shacking up? What's the interest in the state of Michigan?
It has something to do with the legal rights of the children afterwards and how that's going to all happen and any claims.
Because when 2 people kind of get together and shack up, kind of normally what happens next is there's more people. And who's responsible for them? So what Dr. May is trying to give in some of these pieces is that the societal rules follow the normal moral law. Which is why we fought the marriage question, because marriage needed to be redefined in order to get where we are today. The only reason why, go ahead, give your answer. Why did we say? Money. Money. The only reason, there's money involved, but the real reason is the state of the society. The state needs to know who's doing what, who belongs to who. If we got a 4-year-old or a 6-year-old. Okay. So the reason why the state gets involved with marriages in the first place is because there's offspring. Okay? That's part of the first 2 reasons that I put on the outline. Right reason, biological and anthropological. Okay? The third reason is societal. Continued survival of society depends on marriage. While a lot of these things are shifting around, does it depend on marriage? Not really. Somewhere along the way, just also to open up a can of worms and make trouble for how bad things have gotten. We don't even need, guys, we don't even need us anymore to continue. Okay? Society can be just fine without us. Okay? Because there's ways to have children procreated without the guy. We haven't figured out how to procreate children without the woman. With all due respect, doctor. I mean, that's a medical kind of reality. Okay? So we're very far afield from the days of what's obvious, right? We get a man and a woman, and they get married and they have children. It doesn't need to be that way. Okay. And the last one he gives is legal, which I would ask you to make a star by that one. That's a very weak argument, okay? That will change now that marriage definition has changed, but the idea that two homosexual persons didn't need to be married because of other legal remedies for who was there at your bedside when you were dying and inheritance rights and things like that, that wasn't quite true. Okay, now, and so the shortest way to do that, unfortunately, in the legal realm, was to say, actually, okay, we're gonna call what you guys have marriage just because it's easier than fixing all the other pieces. Okay? Because marriage and everything about what it means when two people are married legally. Okay? Had nothing to do with kids now. That was the reason why we got into the state, got into this business in the first place. But along the way, we built up this big pile of, okay, these two people are married, that means this kind of tax, this kind of benefits, this kind of rights of a spouse. I mean, we built up things along the way. So rather than finding a legal remedy to say, okay, any two people can, if you want to do that, you can do it this way. The shortest way to do it was make, which is what the Supreme Court did, make every state recognize marriage, period, as it's defined by whatever jurisdiction. States still have the right to define what marriage is, but it means nothing because if the state next door changes their definition, I mean, it gives a license to two homosexual people, we have to acknowledge that legal reality. Okay? That's the legal piece. Last part of this section, page 37, 38. Again, he quotes from Familias Consortio. Page 40 in your book, the long quote, number 11, Familiaris Consortio. This is a long quote, but this is now years ago, but this is a quote talking about the same kind of dynamic that we're trying to get our own understanding of sexuality by means of which man and woman give themselves to one another. I'm on page 40 of the book. And it's just straight from the document. Sexuality by means of which man and woman give themselves to one another with the acts which are proper and exclusive to spouses by no means something purely biological. It concerns the innermost being of the human person as such. Realized in a truly human way only, an integral part of the love by which a man and woman commit themselves totally to one another until death. Total physical self-giving would be a lie, for we're not the sign and fruit of a total personal self-giving, in which the whole person, including the temporal dimension, that means the body, the whole person, including the temporal dimension, is present. If the person were to withhold something or reserve the possibility of deciding otherwise in the future, by this very fact, he or she would not be giving totally. That's the echo in one real dense paragraph of the theology of the body. Okay? So where he kind of reads it into the beginning, paragraph 11 of this document. Acts which are not purely biological concern the inmost being of the human person. Total physical self-gift or not a fruit would be a life or not a fruit of a total personal self-giving. Next page over in the book, page 42, is continuing on actually from the same paragraph, paragraph 11. The only place in which this self-giving of man and woman is whole truth is made possible is marriage, the covenant of conjugal love freely, consciously chosen, whereby a man and woman accept the intimate community of life and love willed by God himself. Only in this light manifests its true meaning. institution of is not an undue imposition of a form. It's an interior requirement of the covenant of conjugal love, which is publicly affirmed as unique and exclusive in order to live with fidelity to God the Creator. A person's freedom, far from being restricted by this fidelity, is secured against every form of subjectivism or relativism and made to share in creative wisdom. Again, that's much different sounding language, but that's my point with the young couple who says we love each other, we want to be married, but we don't want to have kids. And Pope John Paul in St. John Paul II in this paragraph is saying, but that's what you're proposing. You're proposing to enter into a relationship that has these qualities to it. Life-giving, total. You need to be free. You're freely committing to it. And no one, I mean, people do, but at least most everybody that I dealt with in Chicago doors of church, no one is going to say, I'm going to be married to them for a while. They all say up front, yes, we're in. I'm going to be married forever. So, you know, I'm repeating myself. So use, if this is the Pope Francis, use everything that's good that's already there. Say yes. When you use the fancy vocab, there's plenty of places to do that. Okay? Last paragraph on page 42. Again, it doesn't kind of help us sort it out, but it reminds us, though. It reminds us that this is our approach. The kind of reasoning you give here, we develop further, blah, blah, blah. That's the rest of the book. The sentence that begins with, the point here, in this brief reading that I had from this section, the point here is simply that the church's teaching on sexual matters is always presented both as the revealed will of God and also as eminently reasonable. Catholic vision of sexuality teaches a way of living sexually which is liberating and genuinely good for human beings. So again, it's always both of those pieces revealed, and he goes to that pains to do both. That's why Dr. May is kind of one of our really helpful guys. Even though he's difficult to read at times, he always lays very much. This is how God reveals himself in Scripture and the teachings of Christ. And for these reasons, it's reasonable. Think about it this way. Look at it this way. If this, then this is true. It's always a rational, reasoned approach as well. Okay? Let's take a break. We'll finish the second section that I have to read after the break.
Just remind me when we get to that final discussion.
Okay. What page? Where are we at? Okay. Right there.
I can put your name, you got a hand? No, serious. What kind of chicken is that? What's called in
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. I do. I don't know. They're now starting to play.
That's why every time I do it, I could.
Right.
Get our
We have three without.
My wife.
We have one more here. We have one more here. We have three pairs in our collaborative. 4 pairs are.
I walked away from it. Who worked out. The lady saw them.
Yeah, he's.
My wife did
He had.
I went through her.
Jim Priest, he talked about great for new collaboratives or new priests
Mary doesn't.
moving someplace.
Yeah,
So.
Father Al Jorgensen moves to Mattawa because Father Matthew retires at the end of this month. And he was allowed to stay there until he retired. That's why that domino falls now.
Where was Father Jorgensen at?
Halligan.
It's nice of you to sign up to Grace.
They can write your daughter and say you've got change too.
Yeah, I can say, hey.
Can relate to her.
She said, now Dad, you can be on the altar as a deacon when I get. I said, well, no, that's another silver lining.
Yep.